All right, I'm sharing my screen. Can everybody see that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Morning, everyone. Considering the list of intelligent professionals on the panel here, I thought I would take a different tact, and I'm going to focus on building science, just to give us some background on that, because whether you have an existing, new, old, renovating a house or whatever, you really need to understand building science to make sure that when you're doing energy improvements, it doesn't have any negative consequences to the building. Something that I've been getting more and more hands-on experience with as we renovate an 1880s farmhouse ourselves for our next home. So most of building science deals with water management. To simplify it, water can be in like a liquid form, such as rainwater or surface water or groundwater, or it can be in a more subtle, sneaky form, and that's water vapor. And water vapor can seep up from the ground. It can be produced when burning propane, whether you're taking a steamy shower, cooking pasta, ice dams on your roof, or even, people breathing when they're exercising are actually introducing water vapor into the interior of their home. So the real issue with water vapor is when it condenses. So as it's moving through a wall system, if it hits a cold solid surface, it can condense. And to get there, it can flow through any cracks. It can flow right through walls. It can flow through gaps between different items in your wall system. So once it condenses, it basically turns back into a liquid vapor, from a vapor back to a liquid form. And that's when it can condense and start creating issues. So sometimes the signs of moisture in a house are pretty subtle. They could just be peeling or cracking paint on a windowsill. Sometimes they become more obvious, stains or molding on a ceiling. And sometimes you can't even see that there's a moisture issue until you do some exploration, like taking off wire or plaster and lath in the ceiling. Sometimes you need to go down into the basement to try to find the sources of moisture entering the house. Sometimes you need to go up in the attic, with a flashlight and look around, see how well air sealed things are, see if there are any items that are dripping. Sometimes like a very long exhaust fan run can have condensation building up in it because it's too far for the vapor to travel. Sometimes you can find signs underneath your roofing. So when there's rust on something that's normally clean metal, that's a good sign that there may be moisture condensing there. And then moisture issues can lead to pretty significant damage in a house. This is from frost heaving of a basement wall. But sometimes doing something as simply as putting on an inch of insulation on the exterior can actually create condensation issues that you weren't aware of. Putting extra exterior insulation on always seems like a good idea. But if it's foiled faced and the vapor can't travel through it to dry to the outside, you can trap moisture inside the walls. So what does that look like? This is what it could do to a 2x4. This is less than 10 years of moisture condensing in a roof. These were roof boards. That's actually the roofing underlayment that you can see through the roof boards. So it can have some pretty dire consequences in relatively short time. So some of the signs to look for in the basement, there's something called efflorescence. So if you see like this white chalky substance on the inside of usually masonry walls, that's a good sign that you have moisture leaking through the wall in some form or another repeatedly and drying up. You can also see like rust on any metal thing in your basement. This column is both rusty at the top, showing that water's probably condensing at the ceiling. It's also rusty at the bottom, so there's probably significant moisture there. But these things can be remediated. So if you use a continuous vapor barrier in the basement and seal all the joints and everywhere that it comes in contact with anything, that's a good way to keep, it's actually water vapor that comes out of the ground consistently. You can also do a vapor retarder on the inside of your home or building, and that keeps the moisture from getting into the walls cavities in the first place. And then addressing water on the outside, the best way to do it is with a continuously sealed, self-adhered, wrapped, I almost call this a Christmas present, it's wrapped so tight, but you don't have to worry about any air leakage or any moisture getting in or out. And then also the types of materials that you use. So when you're putting on an exterior insulation, consider using something that allows the moisture vapor to dry to the exterior. So something that has a high perm rating. You can kind of see a little bit of a cutaway of here. And also if you add a drainage plane, which can be strapping, this wood strapping behind the clapboards here, that's a good way to manage moisture and get it to flow away from the house. So that's a quick 5-minute rundown of building science and some of the issues we deal with every day here. And I'll be happy to answer questions at the end of this session regarding building science, and hopefully it applies to everyone.
Thank you, Alan. I think I'm up next here. My name is Brad with Efficiency Vermont. Share my screen here. Okay. Let's toolbar out of the way here. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Brad with Efficiency Vermont, and I am a community engagement manager. My experience at Efficiency Vermont goes back to commercial and industrial work and small business work, working with businesses to find ways to make their operations more efficient and more comfortable. And I had an opportunity to begin working in communities, which I find really fun and interesting and fulfilling, because I get to work more hand in hand with people every day, not just large businesses, but homeowners and small businesses. And I get to meet people at farmers markets and tabling events, and sometimes I get to walk through small businesses and farms. So it's a great way for me to connect with Vermonters and ratepayers and hear what's on their minds and how Efficiency Vermont and our partners can help. So quickly here, who we are. I'd just like to start real quick with who Efficiency Vermont is, in case folks are not completely aware. We are a statewide energy efficiency utility, EEU. There are two other EEUs in the state. One is Vermont Gas, and the other is Burlington Electric. The mission here is that we really reduce the cost of energy for all Vermonters. That's our goal, is to reduce the cost of energy. But I'll say that we also help families and businesses and institutions understand their energy use and make better use of it, and ultimately reduce greenhouse gases and the cost of energy for people. But I do believe that a big part of our mission is to help people understand how they're using their energy and how they can reduce it. I think there's a misconception that reducing energy costs money, or it requires mechanical upgrades or invasive techniques to a home or a building, and that's not always the case. I will say that the hardest hurdle sometimes to face when it comes to encouraging energy efficiency is behavioral changes. So that's something that we work on, and we keep our ear to the ground for that. So what we do, we provide direct support through financial incentives, training, and technical advice. So the financial incentives are geared at everybody in the state who is a ratepayer, and the intention is to help people make an investment or a choice that will reduce energy use. And oftentimes our incentives help equalize the cost. So if you have an appliance that is a baseline and you have a more efficient appliance, our incentives are typically designed to help close that gap. We offer training, and we also offer technical advice. We have a large engineering group within us, and that engineering group will do everything from informational sessions like this to on-site work with other contractors, developers, architects, engineers, to collaborate and to offer input and analysis of different modeling techniques and different technological experiments, sometimes you could say. We try to offer market transformation through supply chain engagement. I'll give a quick example of the LED screw-in light bulb. You might notice that the costs of them are up a little bit more than they were a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, I could go to my local grocery store and they had green light LED light bulbs for $1. Now they're a bit more expensive, and that's because for a while, Efficiency Vermont was buying down the cost of them very aggressively so that we could help transform the market from fluorescence and incandescence to LEDs. So that's an example of how we work with supply chain, whether it be a hardware store or a grocery store or a large home improvement type place to transform the market. And we partner with energy service providers. So that's gas utility and other electric utilities throughout the state. So the impacts, we're looking at about $2.8 billion in energy cost savings for Vermonters. That's over the course of the previous 20 years when Efficiency Vermont began back in 2000. And that means about 12.5 million metric tons of CO2 equivalent that's been avoided being pumped into the atmosphere here in Vermont. And that is the equivalent of about 2.7 million cars avoiding their emissions, which I think is really a big number, considering we have 640,000 people here in Vermont and we don't all own cars. And on average, Vermont's energy bills are about 38% lower than the national average, which I think is really helpful because it's cold here, and it's cold here for a long time of the year. So heating and mechanical ventilation systems and mechanical systems to provide comfort are a big part of Vermonters' energy bills. There have been about a little less than 11,000 jobs in the Vermont energy sector right now. In the efficiency sector, I should say, which is about 58% of the clean energy workforce, which is quite tremendous. And we are partnering with over 400 businesses in our Efficiency Excellence Network. And that's our network of contractors and partners that provide the services that people are looking for. The economic value of the efficiency, about 16% of Vermont's electric needs are met through efficiency versus creating power. We're able to pull some of that power generation off of the need to have it even produced. So 5 cents kilowatt hour saving electricity is worth about 10 cents kilowatt hour the cost of supplying and making the electricity. And same thing when it comes to fuel, $17 worth of cost savings initiatives to save fuel is about $20 worth of cost savings to actually supply the fuel. So efficiency helps buy down the cost of creating energy by not having to create some of that extra energy. And our customers, every ratepayer in the state of Vermont. And that could be a small business, that could be a homeowner, that could be an apartment renter, that could be a large business, that could be basically anybody in the state that is paying an electric bill is a customer of Efficiency Vermont. And we like to think that most Vermonters are our customer base. So thank you everybody for attending today. My name is Brad Long. I'm a community engagement manager with Efficiency Vermont, and I'm happy to be here this morning and participate in this panel discussion with a number of really fine folks and partners of Efficiency Vermont. Thanks.
I have to unmute myself. Still early, I think. Hi, everyone. Thanks to SolarFest for this great opportunity. I am Melanie Pasquich, Director of Operations here at NeighborWorks of Western Vermont, and I run our Heat Squad program, which we're going to talk about today. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully that is working. Great. So we'll talk about Heat Squad and just see, why isn't that working? There we go. Just want to talk a second about who NeighborWorks of Western Vermont is. We're a nonprofit housing organization. We're one-stop shop, all things home. We have several programs. We have lending, we have financial counseling and education, helping people to buy that first home. We have home repair, rental repair, and our Heat Squad program. So Heat Squad, I like to say it's a one-stop shop for energy efficiency. We provide support, regardless of income for basically all building types. I laugh and say dog houses, but they deserve a warm house too. So we really help anyone really we can, but definitely all incomes. And we start with that reduced cost, reduced energy audit, which Rick Shappy, he's an energy auditor with Heat Squad. I'm going to have him talk a minute about that. We do the reports very quickly. We offer objective advice throughout the whole process. We help with contractors. We don't do the work, but we work with independent contractors who are vetted through the program. We also have in-house financing. So if you need help to finance a project, and I'm going to talk about that too. And then we do that quality control and that quality review. So we start at the beginning. We help customers to get that energy audit and figure out what's going on and best recommendations. And then we help at the back end to do that QA after the contractor does the work to make sure everything looks good. We are in Addison, Rutland, Bennington, Wyndham, and Windsor in the Northeast Kingdom, Essex, Orleans, and Caledonia counties. At this point, we've done over 5,000 audits and I think we're pushing 2,500 projects at this point in time. So lots of impact, but more to do, definitely more to do. And we work with great partners, just like Efficiency Vermont, who's a wonderful partner, local utilities, energy committees, energy champions. Couldn't do it without them. So I'm going to let Rick, and Rick, I'll run the slides. So Rick, do you want to jump in to talk about the energy audit?
Sure. Thanks for showing up here. So an energy audit, I liken it to like a house visit from a doctor, right? And the patient is the house. So we're going to go in and do some low-tech stuff, go around and visually look. You can smell propane, sewer gases, maybe musty mold. And we can hear stuff. So oftentimes, you can hear a heating system short cycling, which means you're wasting fuel. Or I had a time where someone's well pump was kicking on and off, and it ended up they had a leak in their line, never showed up in their lawn, and their electric bill was through the roof because this thing was kicking on every 2 minutes. So there are a lot of things, getting another set of eyes in your house, because we get so desensitized in our own house. We don't see things, we don't smell things, we don't hear things because we live there. And then once we do a quick tour with a homeowner and have them point out what they see as issues that they want to have addressed, and it could be from, it's cold, or I want to save money, which most people want to do, or I want to maybe move off of fossil fuels. I want to be, a net zero. So we would help people in their goals. And at the same time, we will go around as we're walking around. They can point out things. I might point out things that they hadn't thought of too. So we look in every place in the house, every cubby, every attic, every basement, crawl spaces that we can get into and take a look and see what the existing conditions are. And then we make recommendations how they can improve those. And as we go through the house, I will also be looking for any asbestos or vermiculite, any health safety issues. So moisture, Alan talked about moisture, that's a big issue sometimes. And oftentimes that can be solved with getting rid of the source of the moisture or through ventilation. And ventilation can be as simple as a bath fan on a timer, It's not a great way of dealing with it, but it's allowed. Or a whole house ventilation system, which is the preferred way. They're more expensive, but I think people are starting to come around to that after two years of being stuck at home and dealing with the pandemic. Air quality is becoming, more and more in the forefront of people's minds. So once we've got the house visually and I go outside, take a look, I'm taking a ton of photos. Some will end up in the report for illustration, and others are, if you call me in a month, the homeowner calls me in a month, I can go back and look and, oh yeah, I remember that. We will do a blower door test. And that's essentially this picture here, the calibrated fan. Almost all the time it's depressurized, so it's blowing air out of your house. And air has to be replaced, and it comes in all the cracks and crannies that you may or may not see. And you can go around and feel it, or you can use an infrared camera, which we will use if the conditions allow it. And you can get a sense of where your air leaks are. And that's the first thing you want to address, is stopping the air moving through your house, assuming don't have a moisture problem. And then then we can also look at what the insulation levels are. And from that, we will generate a report. Like Melanie said, we get that, get that back to you as quickly as we can. These days it's a little slower because everybody's pretty busy. But then in that report, it'll list measures that you could do for insulating a basement wall, attics, your exterior walls. We're looking for also health safety issues is a big issue for us. So, dryer vents got to be exhausted to the outside. You don't want that moisture in your basement or in certainly not your attic. And, making sure having ventilation bathrooms is really important, especially if you got a shower in there. You should definitely have bath vent in your bath.
And vent to the outside.
And vent to the outside. You don't vent
Not
to your
your
garage, no, or the closet next door. We see it, all kinds of stuff. So you want to get it out. And then in that report, we'll make these recommendations, give a rough idea of what the estimated cost would be to have a contractor do it, and how much we would estimate you would save. And that'll be based upon hopefully the fuel records that you provide us, both fuel and electricity. And in those, we can help model the house more accurately. I want to step back and say all of modeling is just that, it's an estimate, but it really gives you a good idea, and it will give you an idea of what the priorities ought to be for your house. And we will help you find a contractor once you decide what you want to have done, find a contractor, find you financing if we can help you, and get the work done. We come back, I do another blower door test, so we can actually you can actually quantify how much you've reduced the air movement to your house. And then at that point, I will also inspect the work and make a submission to either whatever utility, Efficiency Vermont, Vermont Gas, and help you get your rebates. And I will turn it back to Melanie.
Thanks, Rick.
Sure, thanks.
I skipped over some, but Rick talked a little bit. This is how, houses are under pressure, pulling from the bottom, pushing out the top and being replaced. So this is a great drawing to just kind of show those cracks and crevices that are kind of typical, that I know Rick and the energy auditors are looking for. And then this was a slide just to show that your home heating is at least 50% of your overall, energy usage. And our average customers are spending about $3,200, probably more really than that a year. So definitely we want to save and help customers, and on average, our customers saving 250 to it's more like 300 gallons on, the heating fuel annually when they do this work. And then just quickly, this is a basement. This was before, it's back to Alan's scary pictures. A lot of moisture. There's an old rubble foundation, which a lot of us Vermonters have. Exposed dirt floor, and this was after, really tightening it up. And like Alan said, that plastic going up the wall. This is a heat pump hot water heater. So moisture, like Alan was saying, that is the biggest thing we really need to. I mean, there's health and safety, other things too, but that's part of health and safety too. So really addressing those. And then I wanted to talk second. We have an in-house energy loan. That's the statewide energy loan. It's all incomes. It's statewide. I can't quote rates, but it's unsecured, and we can do weatherization, we can do heat pumps, we can even do renewables. And then there's also the home energy loan, which is through Efficiency Vermont, that lower your term, lower your income, potentially your interest rate could be 0, 1.9, 2.9. So there is financing vehicles out there, and I know there's more coming next year. So, and then I like to show this. This is, you know, even with an energy loan, I have customers that are saving money. This is Joan. She's a real person, and she was saving $20 a month with, you know, doing the weatherization, lowering energy bills, and having an energy loan. She's still money in her pocket. And then once that energy loan's paid off, she's saving, you know, $80. Of course, this was a few years back, but it's probably more than that a month. So it can work, and we can help you with that. And like Rick said, we help at every step. Rick's going to help, you know, connect with a contractor, review estimates, perform that the second audit at the end to help you get the rebates from Efficiency Vermont, which are wonderful, and we help all of our customers who do the work to get the rebate. And why we do this, right? We're lowering the heating, cooling, improving comfort, addressing health and safety, increasing your value. And then and it's a check. It's not a tax credit. It's an actual check you get at the end of the job. And thank you very much. I will stop sharing my screen.
And you can tell when we show up at your house, because those are the cars we drive. Yeah.
Yes, that is true. Thank you very much. I think
Great.
Stephanie, you're next.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Thank you, SolarFest, for hosting this discussion. And I just want to say, as somebody who has used the Heat Squad, I can attest to how great that whole experience was. And I would even add, we even had a little bit of a problem in our insulation after it was blown in, it cracked apart, because I think that the weekend that we had them put it in our knee walls was one of the hottest months ever in Vermont. But the nice thing is that it was resolved. They came back and resolved it. So there's that part of it too, because that kind of thing can happen. But the whole process was really wonderful. So thank you so much. Before I start, I guess I can't really see a show of hands since most people are not showing their videos, but I just wanted to get a sense of how many people are familiar with window dressers. I might be preaching to the choir. So I think almost everybody who is on the panel is aware of it. I'm just going to pretend that you all have no idea what it is. Okay, you too. Okay, Val. So Window Dressers is an organization in Maine. They started this program 10 years ago, just a group of folks who were aware that most Mainers, just like Vermonters, have old home stock and very hard to heat the homes, and that, and how to help people to lower their heating cost, make their homes more comfortable, and then also how to lower the carbon footprints. Those are the three major things. I'd like to share my screen. I don't have a fancy PowerPoint presentation, unfortunately, but I would like to just show you what, hopefully you're seeing this. So this is the Window Dresser site. I'm also bringing this up to show you the logo, because that's what you'll see. Sometimes reporters or others will call it window dressing, and that's not what this is. So Window Dressers, that's the logo that you will see around. And so again, it started in Maine, and now it's really taken off in Vermont and in some places in New Hampshire. So just to see that they bring community volunteers of all economic and social situations together to improve the warmth and comfort of interior spaces, lower heating costs, reduce carbon dioxide pollution. These are low-cost insulating window inserts. And I want to show you this little chart they have, because I think it's, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So this is actually in Maine, but the photos show two different windows at the Wells Reserve, one with insulating window inserts and one without. And the windows are only 10 feet apart, but in two different rooms. And the thermometers were left for 15 minutes in each room out of the sun on the windowsill, insulating window inserts. And you can see what the difference is there. That's a pretty big difference. And another reason why I share that is because some people will say, well, if I only can get a few inserts this year, then there's no point, right? We need to do the whole house so we complete the envelope. And actually that turns out not to be the case, that every single one that you use helps. I also just had made some, and with our build, and right now, if I touch some of our windows, if I touch them, they're really cold. The glass is really cold. But when you put a window insert in, it's a double layer of heavy plastic that has, although it's clear, you can see through it, it has a cushion of air inside. And you touch that and it's not cold at all. And in fact, when the sun hits it, it can even heat up. So you're not losing anything. You're not losing your heat. You're not bringing cold air in. So I'm really quite impressed with these things. When I first heard about it at a VCAN conference a couple of years ago, I was curious about it, but I couldn't really understand how something that seemed so flimsy could be that effective. And to make a long story short, in the course of the past couple of years, having gone first to a community build up in Bristol, Vermont, and then having just gone through the whole process here in Bennington County, I've learned so much about it. And I really do think it is one tool in our toolbox. And it has the great potential for us to be able to really help people and organizations. I want to just quickly share another, let's see, I'm going to stop sharing this and I want to share something else with you really quickly. And please forgive me. I'm having a hard time finding how wait, that's not it. Hang on one second. I'm not seeing my photos, which is what I want to show you. No. Golly. Here we go. There, now you should see photos. Do you all see photos? Okay, great. So, whoa, now I don't see them anymore. Are you still seeing photos? Okay, I'm glad you are. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to take you through these because I think, again, this will give you a sense of what we're talking about. So what happens is you do these community builds. They're usually about 5 days long, and everybody who signs up to get inserts is expected to come and help build them. The whole thing, almost the entire thing, is run by volunteers. So an insert that you can get somebody else to build, we've been pricing these out, that might be like $273, we can do for about anywhere between 35 to 70, depending upon the size of the window. So it's a huge savings. And the reason why it's so inexpensive is because it's almost all community run. Even the jigs set up at each table have been beautifully designed by people who figured out exactly what kinds of tools you would need. And so there's different stations. People come in and you're building frames first, and then you go through different stations to build a whole window. Usually though, you do all the frames in the first couple of days and then do the other steps. We recently did the whole build. We did this is really cool. All of Bennington County got together, all of the energy committees, and the BCRC and Shires Housing helped us to be organized. And we had a community build in Bennington, and then we had a community build in the North Shire, which was in Arlington. We built over 400 inserts, and community build, it brought in people of all kinds of different backgrounds. And it truly is community. It was quite fun. Steve Berry was a part of it as well. So here's another, I'm just gonna whip through these. This is Dixie from Sunderland Energy Committee. He actually made up these additional pieces, but anyway, there's so much more I can tell you. So this is at the new Arlington Common, various stations, or your check-in. This is putting on taping around the frames before you then add the plastic. This is in the one with the dark cushion around it. That's the final product. So that is foam on the outside. And by the way, you stick these in, and they don't need any nails or anything. They pop right in. They are so beautifully fit because once people sign up, and we did a lot of tabling at farmers markets and all kinds of outreach, then a team of 2 goes out to a house and does the measuring very carefully. In fact, I think Jim Hand is on here as well, and he also was one of the measurers. And so then those coordinates are immediately sent back to Maine. The pieces are cut and put into kits, and then eventually all that comes back here. So that when you finish the product, and when I brought mine home, I thought, really, this is really going to fit my strange spaces, popped right in. And so for renters, this is also a great option. You're not drilling holes or doing any of that. So really cool product. These are just various people. And we had a lot of students from, for the North Shore, there'll be a lot of Williams College students come in to help, which was great. Just various stations putting on the different parts. And we, in the Arlington Common, we kept the windows open because of COVID, and we also had a ventilation system that changed the air constantly. So we were really fortunate. If it had been a week later, it might've been a little trickier. Let's see. So this is a video, really quick. And when someone learns how to do it, then they become a teacher for the next person who comes in. These college students were awesome. It's wonderful too. It's a multi-generational experience. And you see these jigs are all handmade wooden. They work so beautifully. That right there is the equivalent of a hair dryer, and you can use a hair dryer to seal to get all the wrinkles out of the plastic. So he's just sealing now. He's putting some, yeah, okay. I think that is probably, well, here are just more students doing more of the work together, teamwork, lots of great camaraderie. And that's my friend's house. Anyway, so I can stop that. All right, so the build is about 5 days long, and then at the end, everybody comes and picks up their inserts. There are lots of success stories in this. We've already heard back from a lot of people saying, oh my gosh, you can feel it right away when when you don't have air whipping in. Where I worked at Hildene, my offices are in the old carriage barn, and every year it's just a part of my life that the snow comes through the window onto my desk, just all of us. It's very windy there. And we put putty in, but that becomes loose. You put up the plastic, but then eventually the wind is popping it open. So now we've got these up, and it's just as tight as it can be. And we're walking around thinking, why didn't we do this sooner? It's really wonderful. Drawbacks or challenges for us, and I know Melanie knows what this is like. We were able to get a lot of grant money to help people. We had a very hard time reaching those people in need. Very hard time. So I know this is our first year. We do plan to keep doing it. So we're just working really hard on trying to figure out how to do better outreach. It seems to be that, we have the wherewithal, we have the ability, we have the funds, but we're having a really difficult time reaching those who could most benefit from it. So, and I know that Melanie has mentioned that before, that they have everything right there, but just trying to get beyond those hurdles that keep either people from hearing about it, or dealing with maybe a pride issue, privacy, humility, all kinds of different things. So that's the thing we're going to be looking at over the next year. And we already will be taking, we're already taking orders. And we'll be taking, the time to sign up is in the summer, which is tricky because people don't want to think about the winter and the summer. So those are some of the things we have to get beyond, because then the numbers have to be sent back and the builds are in the fall. So I could say a lot more, but that gives you just a sense of what it is. And then I guess when we get to the very end of all this, I do have some questions for Alan and Rick. I've been taking notes on what you're saying, and I've got some questions for you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Steph. I have to say that the window dressers were extraordinarily well organized, and going to the facility in Arlington, you walk in, Stephanie was one who explained what you went through. Jim Salzgiver and Jim Hand were there as directors as well. And it was so well thought through in terms of all of the stations. You move from place to place to place. At the end of the day, you had completed your window frames, and the window dressers, they've been delivered to the church. I'm speaking now on behalf of the 1786 Meeting House, which is owned by the First Congregational Church, or the Congregational Church of Rupert, Vermont. And we have not been able to gather during the winters for about 2 decades because of fuel costs have been so high. So part of the reason why I became involved with window dressers and with some of the other organizations, for example, Brad Long's organization, Efficiency Vermont, has been extremely important to what we're trying to accomplish at the Meeting House. Alan Benoit has helped us come over to take a look at how we can remediate some of the bathroom issues, and he did that pro bono. Bill LaBerge, who is on the site, has come over with and helped us out by looking at our situation as we explore energy efficiencies with solar panels and grassroots solar. And we've looked at geothermal. We're looking at every option that we possibly can to keep open. And how do we do that most efficiently? And how do we do that most creatively? And how do we use the resources that are out there with the experts, many of them on this panel today, to help ensure that we're doing the right thing, and we're doing it in a way that is going to be helping us not only in this generation, but for the next generation. Trying to establish a model for how this happens in churches is a serious challenge. And that's because we're dealing with a building that was built in 1786. It has more issues than a lot of the buildings that are contemporary homes. So it's a really good project from the perspective of how do we solve problems at the same time bring it into the 21st century. I think we're doing quite well with it, but it's a very difficult task because we don't have any money or very little money. So what we're trying to do is we start on the exterior and we shore up the exterior, our slate roof, make sure that everything, all of the rotting clapboards have been replaced, everything in the envelope has been done on the outside. Then you move on the inside, and that's where we are now. So that we actually had Efficiency Vermont come and do a blower test. They recommended someone that we had come to the blower test. And then after the blower test was done, we contacted people, for example, to do the attic. The attic was not insulated. And we went through some hassles with that issue because Preservation Trust of Vermont had different ideas about what was architecturally able to be done. And Efficiency Vermont had criteria that had been established with the help of Preservation Trust, but they weren't on the same page. So we became a demonstration project in terms of how to figure out how to get on the same page so that it's a standard, so there are standards for all the builds in the future for buildings like ours. It took us about 4 months to get through that. The end result was that we have an attic that is fully insulated. And you can walk in there in the summer and you immediately know the difference. You can walk into the sanctuary, or the common meeting room upstairs now, and you immediately know the difference. Once the window inserts are put in from the window dressers, that will also impact us greatly. We're hoping that we'll be able to actually have the meeting house open this year during the winter. The fuel costs, we believe, are going to go up for people in our neighborhood. And a lot of people cannot afford heating and eating and medicines. They have to drop out one of those or minimize one of those issues. So what we're looking at is to be the meeting house that we have been since 1786, which was a common place for people in our village to meet. And so older people can come in, or children can come in after school and have a warm place. That is the hope for why we're doing this, so that we can have efficiencies. We'll be able to afford that, so that people from the community can actually come in and to enjoy the facility, don't have to heat their home as much, then can go back in the evening and turn their heat up, so they're not doing it the full day. That's the goal. Whether we'll achieve that goal this year, I'm not sure, but at least we're seeking to move in that direction. So everything that we do to help with efficiencies in our building, we hope is going to be benefiting people in our neighborhood, in our village, in the wider surrounds, that they will benefit too. Working with SolarFest is extremely important, because SolarFest has its hands on all of the opportunities for getting in contact with people who can help with efficiencies for your home, for your business. So if you call SolarFest, if you go online and see the SolarFest programs, if you want to know about something that has to do with geothermal or with solar or with anything, if you want technical support, if you want to have experts really helping you, we have the directory that'll put you in contact with people that you see on this board right now, people who are really in the know. I'm not. I'm just a lay person who's trying to figure out how to be how to do my best job that I can for my community. And I need to have these people involved, because I can't make those decisions. They know much more than I do, and I need them in order to make better informed decisions. And that's why we're together on this panel. I'm just saying thank you very much to you, Stephanie, to you, Alan, to your organization, Brad. I look forward to working with yours, Melanie and Richard, more as we move forward, because it's really important to be able to point to projects and say, here's a 1786-year-old building, and we have made this welcoming for the 21st century for the people in their needs now. So thank you. I go back to the moderator right now, I think. Hello, moderator.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve. It's great to hear a firsthand example of how we're all working together and some of the results that we can get. I think Stephanie also touched on results that she's experienced firsthand. So it's great. I'm going to open it up to questions now. So far, we have one question, and directing that to Stephanie. And an attendee would like to know how much it would cost to host a window dresser workshop in their town or community. And it's just curious, Stephanie, if you have an idea of what the process is and if there's an investment required, et cetera.
Yeah, that's a really good question. There are kind of different ways to answer it. In one way, nothing, because window dressers walks you all the way through it. Like, we didn't have to give anybody any money. There was nothing like that. In our initial meetings, they did say that what you want to do is to aim to provide, you want about a third of your inserts to go to people of low income. So these inserts are for anybody of any range, and you actually do want a fair number of people who can afford to pay for theirs, because that helps offset the cost for those who can't, because what happens is when the measures go out to the houses of people who sign up, so they'd like inserts, they can get up to 10 for free. So what happens is the measures go out and they kind of do a kind of a visual check, and when they're finished, they've got an iPad with them as they're popping in the measurements, so they can tell them in real time. So this looks like, based on the windows that we've measured, this is what it would cost. And then the person can either say, great, wonderful, and they need to pay for them right then. They need to write a check, at least they need to send it in right then. Or if they get the sense that someone's thinking, that's too much, you can either say, well, how many would you like to do this year? Or you can say, if this looks like it's going to be prohibitive for you, great, what do you think you could put towards them? And if it really looks like this is a case where you need to just go ahead and make the offer, without embarrassing the person, to be able to say, you know what, I want you to know that we do have funds to be able to provide up to 10 for free. And so we did have takers for that, and everything in between. So then let me come back around to the original question. We were advised to raise per event, so the one in the South Shire and the one in the North Shire, $3,000, so that we could be sure that we could offset those costs. We actually ended up raising altogether in the county, we ended up raising $10,000 in grant money, and we had to return a fair amount, which you never want to have to do. We were more successful than we thought we'd be, for one thing. But the point is that, every single funder we went to said yes. They see the value of this and they want to be a part of it, whether it was community banks or a GROW grant or Stratton Foundation or others. So again, this is our first year, so we're a bit wobbly trying to figure out how this whole thing would work. But you don't need money up front in the sense of you have to pay window dressers in order to start it. It doesn't work that way at all. And again, because everyone who orders inserts must come, like, I think it's each session is 4 hours long. There's a morning and an afternoon build session. I think it's that for every 3 to 5 inserts that you order, you need to attend a session. So, if you order 10, then you would come for 2. And we had many people sign up who didn't even order inserts. They just wanted to be a part of it. And in great days and normal COVID, when we wouldn't have COVID times, you'd have a potluck as well, which is really great. We did have a lot of food, and people made food and brought it, but it's not the same thing as, we had to be careful about that. But it definitely is community, and a lot of things get donated, and they provide. This is one more little thing. They provide the software that we use, which I thought was really great. I finally got the hang of it towards the end of it, but which will help you with your donations and with people signing up to volunteer. So we wanted to raise money so that we could do outreach, so we could do our advertising, make some posters, some things like that. But otherwise, it's there isn't really an upfront cost in the sense that I think you're asking.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephanie. Hopefully that's answered the questions. Go ahead, Melanie.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Stephanie, I love the idea about, I'm working with window dressers to get something in Rutland County going, but I love the idea about renters. Do you know if you had renters that took advantage of it?
You know what? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if Jim is still on hand, otherwise known as Marilyn. But so I was just the volunteer coordinator. I don't really know for the North Shire. I don't know if I think maybe one person, because the other thing was we had someone who couldn't volunteer because for whatever reason, they weren't even able to come in and help build. But so when that happens, you just know that you have enough volunteers you're going to cover. And when we went to that person's house, they're exactly the people we were trying to reach. And I have a feeling that they may have been renters, but I don't know that for a fact. Jim, do you know?
I think that's great.
I do not know. We were hoping that in Bennington, we would have success with renters because there's a very large rental population there. The person you might check with would be Jeannie Jenkins in Bennington. She was deeply involved. She's also a select board chair, so she has a pretty good thumb on her finger on what's going on in that regard.
I'm seeing her Tuesday at an event, so I'll ask her.
Good.
So that's great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Stephanie.
And the window inserts work, and you're not going to be able to get them if it's a round window or like there are certain things it doesn't do. It's your basic square or rectangular window. And then the other thing is, lost my train of thought. What is the other thing? I don't know. It's gone. It's been a long week. but they are great. They do the job. Oh, I know. It's that they won't work in all windows. So there are some cases they work for most windows, but if you are in a mobile home, for example, it could be that the lip is not the sill or the frame is not either uniform enough or deep enough. But Jim also would know the answer to that because he was the coordinator for the measuring for the North Shire.
That's exactly right. It does not work in all situations, but I would say the majority.
Oh, there's one other thing I want to say. When we were at all of our tabling events and giving presentations for various organizations, when someone would come up to me and say, "Oh, great, yeah, we really need to do something like this. Our windows are so drafty," I do always ask them, "Have you had an energy audit?" Because to me, that's the place to start. Because you can put all these things up that you want. If you haven't taken care of your attic space, if you haven't then that's not. People think that it's changing out your windows or putting up and I know that a better place to start. So I do constantly try to get people to go to the Heat Squad, to NeighborWorks, to organizations that are going to do that.
To that regards, for those of you who don't know, I believe this came from Melanie directly. She provided us with a coupon for those who wanted to sign up for an audit with a $50 discount. I think in most cases it was only about $100 to do a audit. And in fact, I want to thank her personally right now because she's helping me with the Habitat resale store, which we're trying to do some work on, and she allowed me to use that $50 discount coupon. So thank you.
No, thank you, Jim. No, yeah, we did it also in the Northeast Kingdom. We're involved with them up there too and offer the coupons in Bristol. I think, right, Rick? We did Bristol too. So yeah, I think that's great, Stephanie. I always hope that this is one step to get people to think about the greater, work that can be done on the home about energy efficiency. So however, we can all support that. And that's why I'm trying to really link in with the window dressers to kind of, how can we help each other? I can help you to get to customers, and maybe you can help me to, just kind of linkage better. So it's all good. It's a great organization, though. I'm very excited to be part of it. But thank you.
I'd like just to add that some of these organizations that are mentioned here, Heat Squad, Efficiency Vermont, those rebates really look nice when they come in too. Just to let you know. You go through the process, they help you out, and then at the end of it, you've paid for what you're getting, and then you're getting a rebate because you've just made your home or your building more efficient. So it works out well for the person who is having to pay. It makes good sense to get the upgrades so that you can have your house feeling better, your facility feeling better, and then you get a check in the mail. Pretty nice.
Can I interject? Thank you, Steve. To Stephanie's point, and Melanie also, and I'll ask all of you because I know many of you here are sort of energy folks. How can you, or I asked a question that just as they indicated, we are really having trouble helping those people who really need the help desperately. For whatever the reason. And if any of you have any ideas, either I shouldn't call it marketing, but how do we get, whether it's window dressers or the audits, if any of you have any ideas, either personally or that you've seen work in other organizations, I'm sure Melanie would like to hear them, and those folks with window dressers, both in Maine and for ourselves, would love to hear.
Something that occurs to me is because I've been thinking about this so much, as I sit here with my books behind me and my Shakespeare bust, and we all have our, we're most of us are preaching to the choir. We're on our. So I was thinking, really, it takes the personal touch, like where in Arlington do you see people who actually live here? You see them at the town meeting. They'll show up to the town meeting, whether it's Zoom or not. They're very involved that way. And we've got an Arlington Facebook page that a lot of people pile onto, which is nice. But I feel like it would be great. Like Melanie, it would be so awesome if at every single town meeting, how do you cover that? That you have, that if you're not there, or but there's somebody trained to get up and say, we want you to know about this. We're having a hard time reaching you. We have the means to help you. And like, but very simple, like this, ding, ding, ding. Here's the stuff. Before you go out, make sure you grab this and call me. And they're gonna think, I'm gonna call Melanie, because it's so confusing. For me, one of the things I find most confusing in the state of Vermont is that there are so many organizations doing so many things, and I can't keep them straight. I need a huge chart on my wall to figure out how VCAN is related to EN, to like, there's so many things. And I think after a while, people are like, I don't know, it's just too complicated. And so maybe just the personal touch, showing up at the places where we know people who need it go. I don't know.
I just had a quick thought, and maybe I'm off on a limb here, but I would say this, just as you said for Melanie, but maybe also for Efficiency Vermont, because a lot of people don't understand that they have paid a small portion every month for the services of Efficiency Vermont. So it's not as if they're getting an entire, they're labeling it a freebie. Yes, it's assistance, I get that. But they are contributing with dollars and cents every week on their electric bill. So maybe, I throw this out to Efficiency Vermont, you maybe Brad or whomever, maybe town meeting days, that's the day you all could be making visits. Again, I don't know, maybe you've had great success already, what we're talking about.
Yeah, thanks for that input and those thoughts. I know when I'm working in my communities, my targeted communities that I've been doing now for 3 years, I'm generally at every town meeting day with a table along with the local energy committee or other local organizations. I've also been working with municipalities in that capacity, working alongside of them as well. But a couple other places that I do reach people and all walks of people are grocery stores, hardware stores, and food shelves. Those are 3 places where I tend to find people that may or may not recognize that there are benefits and opportunities available for them. And they're great places for me to connect with folks and listen to some of their needs and provide some resources. So if you are on a local energy committee, and you have some capacity and a relationship with a local grocery store, that is really a fantastic place where you will see most people in your neighborhood, most people in your local community, and have an opportunity to reach out to them. So I'll leave that there. I mean, I think there are other ways that we can reach people, whether it's Front Porch Forum, other organizations, but what it comes down to is everybody needs to eat, everybody needs food. So a grocery store or a food shelf is a fantastic spot to reach all populations, particularly vulnerable populations. And those are places where you can find us working sometimes.
Brad, so we did put inserts into every bag that went out of the food shelf. Part of the problem with COVID is that people weren't coming in and choosing, they're just coming and picking up. But still, I think your point is so well taken, though. It's like you can still have stuff available, but it's having the actual person there, a real person sitting at a table. Like if I go to, instead of putting something up at Shaw's, I need to have a table at Shaw's. Yeah. I need to be able to say, hey, have you heard about this? We'd love to help you. Ask them, or something. I mean, I know that for me, when I'm in a grocery store, if I see a table, in a way, I don't want to be accosted. I'm getting my groceries. I've got to be somewhere. But there is a way of being neighborly, and I think that you inspire me to do that. So thank you.
Libraries are also a great community gathering place, and like the work Stephen is doing here with his community center. These are opportunities to engage with the community and places to meet everybody in your community.
Thank you.
In the dump. Well, transfer station, sorry.
Transfer station.
It's always.
We also got a suggestion from somebody that may be connecting with the school system and educating the students and bringing home information to their parents might be a good idea.
Yeah, there is a statewide organization called VEEP, VEEP, Vermont Environmental Education Partners, and they will work with your schools if they have capacity to help educate students. So if you're not familiar with VEEP, I would encourage reaching out to them and see if they can help you in your community.
There again, we sent something home with students, or actually Sunderland did. Finding a way to do it in person is, I know it's just hard with COVID. It's hard because you don't have the same kinds of things, but your point is Joseph there with his hand raised? Has he been just so kindly waiting all this time so patiently? I can't believe it.
Yeah, hi. I just want to thank all the speakers. It's a great presentation, and to say that your program, Stephanie, is brilliant because it's low cost, high impact, and it does a lot for a little bit of money. But my question for the panel is about I'm in the Northern Catskills. I'm an architect in the Northern Catskills in New York, and there's all this money coming down the pike from the infrastructure bills that are coming through Congress now that's going to be available for residential rehabilitation. But my question is about overcoming, how do we overcome, a lot of these things are about undoing poor work that was done in the past. And a lot of it is not low impact, it's high impact. You got to get into the house, you got to get up into the attics. It's, for people that are, in their homes, you're coming into their homes and you're impacting them in large ways. I think we need to look in a broader ways to have these kind of impacts on energy use that don't disrupt people so totally in their homes. And I'm not sure how to go about doing that, but I think as an industry, we need to think about that more. Ways that we can get in and have large impacts on energy efficiency and energy usage without having people to leave their homes while the work is going on.
Joseph, one of the reasons that all the energy committees in Bennington got together on this window dresser things, not to get too far out there, but was, I wouldn't say all this, but many of us know that windows are not the first thing that we would normally address certainly from a cost economic point of view of energy efficiency in a building or home. But we've been getting or finding so little traction in getting the heavier, bigger work that you're talking about, or corrective work done. And when you talk to most, I'll call less informed people, the first thing they always jump at is windows. And so knowing that windows are expensive, $500 to $1,500, depending on the kind and the parts and labor per window, we thought, here's a relatively inexpensive item, has some significant value in many cases, and that this would be a way to get them to start thinking about, like Alan was saying, analyzing or thinking about your total potential problems in your building, and then jump onto the audit and then go from there. But again, this goes back to us, in my mind, this issue of not getting to the right people who really are going through a lot of fuel or cost or uncomfortable situations. I don't disagree with you. There's some very heavy lifting to be done. It's just, how do you get the thing started? So I think those are good suggestions that all of you have there.
I just want to offer something in terms of how to get things started with folks. I had an energy audit performed on the home I previously owned and lived in, and as an energy nerd, I thought it was really great. I got a nice thick report, photographs, scientific data, thought it was really fantastic. And as somebody working in the industry, I found it a little overwhelming. Data, a lot of steps that could be taken, a lot of mitigation measures, and there was certainly some cost associated with all of it. And the challenge I faced almost immediately was, how do I prioritize all of this work? How do I start? Where is the place to start? And certainly if you're working with a progressive architect for new construction or some heavy duty renovation, those are the folks to lean into. Certainly if you're working with a rehabilitation of an older home, our friends at Heat Squad and other weatherization contractors are the places to go. But if you're looking for a place to start, and even if you're a renter, Efficiency Vermont offers a virtual home energy visit right now. There's no cost to that. What we do is we work with somebody's cell phone or iPad. And what we'll do is we will connect a homeowner or a renter with an engineer, and we'll go through a series of questions, and we will start by asking, what is the challenge? What are your goals? What are you trying to do here? Where's the pain? The pain being the high energy cost, or a really cold room, or pipes that continually freeze, or a boiler that doesn't seem to work properly. And our engineer will try to make some recommendations and suggestions, but ultimately boil it down to helping somebody create a priority list. Is to start. And sometimes we might refer somebody to a weatherization contractor and say, we really think you need an audit. Sometimes we might be able to say to somebody, hey, there are some do-it-yourself things that can be done. But the virtual home energy visit is something that people can sign up for. There's no cost for it. It's a great place to start. But I would also say one other thing that Alan really emphasized early in this presentation, that managing a house, managing any kind of building is really about moisture control, moisture management. And if it's not done properly, as an example, if you were to air seal and insulate your attic levels without touching the basement, and you have a dirt floor basement, there's a great chance there that you are going to be inhibiting mold and moisture, and you're going to create an air quality issue in your house that can become dangerous. So my encouragement is to always consult a professional when you're working within your home, and get the advice of a trusted professional who can stand behind their work and utilize modern technology to mitigate some of these challenges that you may find in your home. So I'm off my soapbox, but hopefully that helps.
Excellent. Thank you both. Great discussion. We're going to jump onto a different topic while we still have a few minutes left. Melanie, can you address the best way for somebody to get in touch with Heat Squad and to schedule an energy audit?
Sure, yeah. I think we put it in the little chat there, but our number is 802-438-2303, or you can go to heatsquad.org and sign up right on the website. And yeah, we'll give you a call. We have two staff, Lori and Lindsay, that will give you a call and get you scheduled. We call people right back. But yeah, either the website or you can give us a call for sure.
And can I also say, for me, when I had the Heat Squad come out a couple of years ago, I don't know how many years ago it was now, but when I got that report, that is what it did. And when they sat down with me, I think it was John, sat down with me and said, okay, these are all the things you could do. This is the order of biggest bang for your buck, or what's going to make the biggest difference, which is so important for me. My husband and I it's really hard for us to make these big decisions, sometimes the little decisions. So I thought that was extremely helpful. And we can tick those things off over time as we are able. So there was that. And also I wanted to just quickly say one thing about window dressers is that some people might think, oh, but this is an organization in Maine. They're really great to work with. We found them to be excellent. They weren't like absentee, difficult to. We had one of their main people, Jessica, on all of our calls, all of our Zoom meetings, and we met for almost a year. And so we really felt like we were well supported.
I have a question for the panel. Once you have your first audit done, someone comes in, tells you what you need, blower test takes place, analysis takes place, you do some remediation, et cetera, et cetera. Do you ever have a follow-up? Do you ever have an audit again? How many audits should you have just to keep contemporary as to whether or not you are actually making progress in the endeavors that you're seeking to have. Anybody on that?
Yeah, so we do come back and do another blower door test. I think you mentioned that. So even though you're not getting technically an audit, we are going around and inspecting the work that has been done to make sure it meets energy code and the contractors did what they said they were going to do and things like that. You're not required with Efficiency Vermont if you do a phased project. So let's say you do something this year and something else next year, and there's still rebates available. Once you get your 10%, you're not required to do another blower door test. It certainly is, it's not a huge task to do a blower door test, because usually each of the things you do, most of the things that you do, let's say you do work in your attic and the air seal, you don't have to do a special air sealing. Every work that you do in your attic, your basement, and walls will provide air sealing if it's done properly. And you can, with a blower door test, determine how each of those phases, how effective they've been on air sealing. The bottom line comes in your heat bill, right? If you keep track of your heating, and assuming you don't have your parents, your kids move back with you or something like that, you can compare this year to last year based upon when you got your improvements done. And that's really, to be honest with you, that's the best measure. You can do all these high tech, infrared and stuff, but if it's saving you money on your heating bill, you've been successful. And that's what I would say.
I'd just like to add one more thing onto that, Richard. You're 100% correct. I went from about 900 gallons of propane to 600 gallons of propane after a reasonable weatherization on my small home. But I will say the other thing that folks can expect is greater comfort. Not having my shins and feet cold all the time was an incredible improvement to my house, and that was the result of polyiso board on the bottom half of my crawl space walls and spray foam on the top half and in the band joists. So comfort is something that people overlook often, and I really can't emphasize it enough, because when you're comfortable in your home, a lot more doors are open to you. So we'll leave it there.
Excellent, thank you. We did have a question in the chat about some vapor barriers in the basement. I think Richard and I have been tag teaming on that one. So does anybody else have any questions for us? We have 2 minutes left. And if you have a question, this is a great opportunity to ask the panel directly and try to get Solar Fest's brain dump to your disposal.
Alan, I just want to say, I keep thinking about this whole idea of sealing, like all the things that you shared in the beginning of sealing your house, but at the same time, you don't want to trap moisture, you don't want to trap, like you want to have air ventilation. I keep thinking, well, what about those vents that go out from the bathroom? Isn't that also a conduit for release of of heat loss? And I won't necessarily even know it. Is that what's causing my darn ice jams that I'm dealing with right now? Just trying to figure all this out. But what I really appreciated you're talking about, it's not so much that you want it to be, well, it is an air thing, but it's moisture. Like you still want air to circulate. You want air to get out, but you want to release the moisture, but you and not have the moisture in the first place if possible. But at the same time, you want a tight house for heat. It seems like that's a contradiction in terms in a way.
Yeah, so fortunately, you can spot ventilate. So over your the exhaust hood over your stove is a good example, as well as a bathroom vent is a good example. So those are all places that are generating high percentage of moisture. So if you can vent those directly to the outside, that reduces the amount of moisture that's going to be trapped within the rest of your house. And then also, once you've tightened up a building enough, it's really good to have mechanical ventilation. So an HRV or an ERV will bring fresh air in and exhaust stale air out of the house and temper it along the way, so you're not just bringing in ice cold air. So that's in a nutshell, that's a good way to tackle that. Also, it's a matter of just making sure that you're not putting something that doesn't allow moisture to pass through in the wrong location in a house. There are some places where you don't want moisture to go, and there are other places where you do want to let it dry out. So again, it's a big iceberg, building science, and the more you learn about it, initially the more confusing it gets, but eventually you get to clarity and can understand it. But feel free to reach out to any of us and we can do our best to guide you. All right, with that, I just want to say thank you to all the panelists. Thank you to SolarFest. Really appreciate everybody dedicating their time, and thank you for everybody who attended. And hopefully others will be watching this recording online in the future. I think that's all I have. Anybody have any parting words?
Yeah, thank you, Alan. Yeah, please check out the classes that'll be coming up on SolarFest. Every month we're doing something, and you can go on solarfest.org and check it out and find out more information and get directories for these people that can help you with your issues at home.
Great, thank you, Steve.
Thank you all very much.
Everybody enjoy your weekend.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.